How's it, guys? Welcome to another video of Asian man struggles. Today it's gonna be a very fun topic. We're gonna talk about Asian American films, and there has been a lot more Asian American films lately in the past, I would say, decade. Maybe it has a lot to do with the inclusion kind of thing going on, and also with a lot more diverse actors out there, a lot of Asian American actors out there. And the reason why I make this video is because, there's always been talks about films with Asians in it. And martial art films typically are usually Asian, okay? And a lot of films that were imported from Asian countries like Korea, Japan, or China, But there's not that much going on with Asian American films that are about like an Asian person in America or actually in any Western kind of aspect. So today's video is about that and some recommendations that I want to give to you all. And so my criteria is gonna be that these films are non-martial arts related. There's a large Asian American or Asian Western influence cast, or the main leads are also Asian American or Asian Western influence. So what I mean by that is maybe they're born in Asia, but they've come to live in some Western country, like the ones that listed here. And typically these films, they share some kind of Asian American, Asian Western experience of some sort. So something like immigration or growing up in America or some Western country and just living that cultural clash, and I want to be fair. I'm not gonna put animations here, and besides the foreign language that they might speak in that movie, I also wanted to make sure that these films have some form of English speaking in them. Okay, so English dialogue of some sort, So without ado, I want to recommend you 6 Asian American films that I really like and hope that you guys will share and also watch for yourself. Alright, so the first movie, my first pick, a lot of you are going to rebuff me on this, and say, why did you pick Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle? Well, I mean, it's a fun movie, and even though it only starred the two main leads are Asian American, I think Indian and Korean, and it is mostly with a large white cast, maybe one or two Asians. I think the girl that likes Harold, and then Bobby Lee, who's also starring in it. But other than that, I mean, it's just the fact that these two Asian guys, who are not your stereotypical Asians. I mean, in a way they are, but not really, because it's all about getting high, getting laid, and also just getting out there to do whatever you want when you're craving for some burgers. So that's why they go to White Castle. But it's hard not to think of these two actors, John Cho and Kal Penn, and not think of Harold and Kumar, because I think it's that movie that made them so famous. Probably from this coming of age classic. Now, this film was a household name back in my younger days. It was a great bro film, just a fun young person film, and of course it was more than just comedy, I would say. It really played into those stereotypical Asian American stereotypes, but at the same time it also tried to break them. So and it also addressed it too. It dealt with racism in the movie. You sit with these two characters, they are always constantly facing that and their obstacle to get to White Castle. And at the same time, it told a story of how they try to manage and live with their Asian American identity while, going there every day. So they're in their whole quest, they're faced with that obstacle, with all these guys or whatever happening, and also their own young professional life and all. And they do this film all with a laugh, and it's very satisfying to see them, doing all these antics and persevering through all these obstacles while getting to White Castle. But overall, I mean, this movie it's a quite enjoyable experience just seeing these two Asian dudes just having fun. And you don't really see that in most movies. It's always like some white person or blonde chick or something like that. Well, basically the same. But yeah, Harold and Kumar is definitely one of my first picks. You might agree to disagree, but definitely a worth the watch. All right, so my second recommendation would be Crazy Rich Asians. Yes. How can I not have this on here? Some of you might, say, well, why Crazy Rich Asians? Just so, overrated. But no, I actually think it's a great movie. And it's probably the most widely regarded triumph of Asians in recent Western cinema. And this book, this film is based off the book by Kevin Kwan. He's a Singaporean, and it really showcased the glory and the pride of being Asian and also rich at the same time, but the thing is, when it talks about the rich, yeah, they were crazy and whatever, but and they also show you the side of rich where some of them got their rich from generations, and also some of them made their wealth, and although it's set in Singapore, and I know that this is Asian American, but Rachel Chu, the main character played by Constance Wu, her boyfriend is Singaporean, but they're obviously Western influence. And so the point of the story is, she's gonna be potentially marrying her boyfriend who's super rich from this super rich family. And not only does it tell you like this very Cinderella kind of story, it breaks it down. It breaks it down to where it goes into themes like family, and also that despite being of the same group, even though you are Asian, they'll always find a way to really discriminate you. Whether that be in your wealth, your connections, your background, or just people just people who think that you're not worthy enough. Kind of like the boyfriend's mom who thinks that of Rachel. But what stuck with me with the theme is that it also has to deal with pleasing your family and balancing what you want. Those contrasting values of Western values versus Eastern value. It's a common Asian value that many Asian Americans face, growing up, especially if you're in the United States or some other Western country, So it's definitely a fun movie to watch and just to see. I wouldn't say it's boring. I wouldn't say it's overrated or cheesy. There are some cheesy parts, but it's a really great movie to see. And definitely it's a huge, large Asian cast, a lot of famous Asians in here, and a lot of them broke out because of this movie. Okay. All right, so my next pick would be another recent movie, Minari. Some of you probably haven't heard of it because I think it's a small budget and it's in limited theaters. But it stars, I'll be honest, I wanted to watch this because it's the lead actor on this, the father, is Steven Yeun, and he's from The Walking Dead, if some of you aren't familiar with that. And it made me eager to watch it. But even if he didn't star in it, I would recommend this movie because it's the telling of the classic Asian American family experience when they move into a town where it's all full of people that don't look like you. And this Korean family moves to rural Arkansas with the hope of the American dream. And what is the American dream? So in the movie, it's about owning the land, doing business, and really just prospering, with what you got. Because they came from Korea, and then they worked as, I think, chicken sex checkers. They basically they check the sex of chickens, and they got this piece of land, and then they're just living in this world, this white people's world, and just trying to survive in it. And even among languages and cultural barriers, it deals with the difficulty as the family sees the hard work of starting from scratch. Minari is a great movie about growing in a community unlike your own. And also, as Steven Yeun did not steal the spotlight from its other family members. The children were fantastic actors. We see it through their everyday experience, growing up American and trying to also retain their Korean heritage at home. And the female characters on this were also very strong. They're very fun to watch, and their personalities end up being a dominant presence alongside the family's growing life, you know. And I think the trailer is about to. Oh yeah, and the grandma's awesome. You know, very fun to watch her and the grandson. But what made this movie was so good was the acute detail in showing you the relationships between the family members and the conflict between them. If anything, the movie was more focused on each family member's characterization, their life in rural Arkansas, than it was plot driven, I would say. You know, you see the family just doing their own thing, but also they're also intersecting too. Of course, there was an occurring family conflict that gradually made you realize that, you know, this can happen to all families, any family, regardless of whether you're Asian or not. So Minari is definitely a recommendation, I would say. If you know, to definitely watch. It has its funny parts and it has its dramatic parts, and definitely really resonated with me. Okay, so after Minari, I want to recommend another immigrant film, and this one you can watch on Netflix. Tiger Tail. It's a more depressing film compared to Minari, yet it's also a very powerful movie that I need to recommend all immigrants or children of immigrants, regardless of whether you're Asian or not, to watch. Tiger Tail is about a Taiwanese man who immigrated to America with his wife, raised a family only to be regretful of having immigrated after all those years, when he realized he's in a crossroad with his choices and dreams, when he becomes an old man. But as a young man, he had the dream of leaving Taiwan and moving to America for a life he imagined to be great, as most immigrants would imagine America to be. And but as we all know, the grass is not always greener on the other side for some. And this emotional drama film really pulled my heartstrings, as it really shined on a topic we don't often talk about, and that is, you know, the regrets and the past life that immigrants left behind to come to America. That, and also the relationships that we have with our immigrant parents. So as the main character grows older, I mean, as you can see, it's played by Zima, the father of the new Disney live-action Mulan film, and also other films too. He's very famous. It really connects him and his daughter, and why he came to America, and also other struggles that he went through, you know. And it's basically the untold story of that immigrant life, you know, before they come to America. And you know, a lot of us who are children of immigrants don't really have that experience talking to our fathers, mothers, and you know, grandparents about it too. What kind of life they left behind when they came to, whether it's America, UK, Canada, you know. So I really like this movie. You know, I would say it's a little bit more depressing, not as humorous as Minari, but otherwise it's definitely worth the watch. You can see the main character Zima's you know, you can see his pain, and also see the choices that he made, you know, and also, you know, just the development. It's a really good film. I highly recommend it. You can watch it on Netflix, or you know, pirated or whatever, but definitely a good movie. Okay, so this next movie is also a Netflix movie, and some of you might have seen it already. It stars two famous comedians, or two famous Asian American comedians, or funny people. I don't know if Randall Park is a real comedian, but he's just a funny guy, and a huge cast of famous Asian people like Daniel Day Kim. And it's a romantic comedy. Always Be My Maybe is one of those films that will always leave you smiling, I would say. It embraces the awesomeness of seeing like all these famous Asian actors pop up, and you know, and actresses in this cute childhood romance turned adult blast of funny dialogue. You know, the dialogue is written so well, just like, you know, back to back, you know, talking. It's like it seems so real. And then seeing the chemistry of Randall Park and Ali Wong, it's just a match made in heaven, really, with these two funny people. And what's so great about it is that it's not your typical romantic story of boy meets girl. It's about friendship, young love, breaking up, moving on, and then somehow, fate brings back that friend back to your life when you're older. And what's great about it is that the conversations and the fun that you see Randall and Ali have, it's so contagious in this film that you find yourself really understanding them, like they were your two friends who finally hooked up at last, So really, when you watch them, you feel like you're there. It's definitely a fun watch, and a lot of Asian American influences within these two characters, and the development in regards to how they grew up, their families, and their own hard work and dreams in the present day, as adults. But definitely, give this film gets 2 thumbs up. I really like this film. It's very funny, and it's so enjoyable. It really is. Like, if you take away that whole Asian concept out of it, it's just as enjoyable. If it was 2, I don't know, white people, black people, it's just very fun just seeing them, the romance take off again. And of course, you have a surprise guest actor in here. I think he's coming up pretty soon. If you haven't seen the film, you know who it is. If you've seen the film, you know who it is. But here he comes, and yeah, Keanu Reeves. Yeah, it's awesome. This is a really good movie. Definitely worth the watch. So, yeah. Okay. My last pick, and probably the number 1 Asian American film that I recommend, would be Picture Bride. And Picture Bride is very dear to me. Not only does it take place in Hawaii, from where I'm from, also it tells the perspective of what it was like back in Hawaii's plantation days. And it stars Tamlyn Tomita, and if ever you recalled her name, yes, she is Daniel Son's Okinawan sweetheart. Yes, Karate Kid Part 2. Not this girl right here. Not this one, but she'll come in later in the movie. But so Picture Bride, it's about a Japanese bride that have never met her future husband before, because it was done through photographs by a matchmaker. And this is based on historical practices back in the day. A lot of male laborers who worked in Hawaii, who did not have money to go back to their home country, they were encouraged to settle in places like Hawaii or other places in mainland America. And to do that, they try to find wives, and so they go through the local matchmaker, and they send their photo, and through that their match, kind of like your modern day Tinder, and so they finally meet each other when they go to these places, these brides, and hence they were called Picture Brides. And so this story of this bride, it's a very emotional and very interesting one, because you can see her life change dramatically after her family sold her to be a wife to Hawaii. And as you see in this clip, she's seeing her husband for the first time, but somehow, she got catfish. And yeah, I couldn't find the trailer for this movie, because this movie it's a very small budget film, and it was made in 1994, by the way. It's a pretty old movie. It's about the same age as I am, and it's a very underrated film. It really is. It should have gained the exposure it deserved, back in the day. Maybe it will now, but it's very hard to find as well. You can find it on Amazon. That's how I watched it. You can buy it on Amazon, the digital one, or maybe YouTube. I'm not sure. I guess we'll see after. But yes, so I first saw this movie when I was in class, when I was in high school, and it was shown during history class, and I'm glad I saw it. Love is definitely not something that they married for. It was all for a mutual benefit, and something that we take for granted nowadays. It was all for a mutual benefit. And the struggle, it's so real in this film, really. You see her work on the plantation, and then you see her later, really resenting her choice. You know, I'm not going to spoil it too much, but overall this film is great. It really shows you what life was like as a laborer from Japan or from Asia and all the other Asian countries that come to Hawaii. And it's a great movie to gain a perspective of Hawaii's plantation history and immigrant life. And also, what's great about this film is they actually talk in our local, what we call in Hawaii, Pidgin English, and it's very interesting to see that because you don't really see that in most films. You know, maybe nowadays in some, some films that talk about Hawaii, but it's usually, some tourist kind of movie, But this movie, really, you get to see it. And yeah, definitely worth the watch. So not only does it star Talman Tomita, so the girl, the main character that we just were watching, she was in Memoirs of a Geisha actually, and also it also stars some other famous people like Kerry Tagawa, who was in the Last Emperor, who played the eunuch, and who also played the grandfather of Johnny Tsunami, if some of you remember that from Disney film times. But yeah, definitely worth the watch, this movie, and it is my #1 pick for sure. And there it is, guys. These are the 6 movies that I recommend, Asian American films to watch. I know I probably missed some. There's some other good ones out there, and feel free to comment below and let me know what other Asian American movies that I should watch, and maybe should have been on this list. Or on a top list for you. That is. So, anyways, there is my video, and as always, carry on and remember to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.